Hello, and welcome to JSTOR for Advanced Research, our 2025 update. We are about to get started, but we know sometimes people need a second to get set up with GoToWebinar. This webinar is the third in a series of 5 JSTOR Updates webinars for 2025, covering a range of topics. This particular advanced research webinar is appropriate for librarians, researchers, and teaching faculty. We have created a handout for this webinar where you will find relevant resources, including links to sign up for the next 2 webinars. We hope that you can use this handout to refer back to after the webinar as you walk yourself through the features and functionalities that we will share today. In the handout, you will also see recordings of past webinars, including the Intro to Research on JSTOR webinar from a couple of weeks ago. And that handout is in the chat. Now let's get started with some introductions. All right, let me introduce our team today. My name is Kelsey Schaefer. I am a partner and user education lead. Our presenter today is Dana Howard, our Senior Education and Outreach Manager on the JSTOR Partner and User Education team. We also have some wonderful colleagues who are helping to answer your questions behind the scenes. Before I hand it off to Dana, I want to let you know that this presentation is being recorded. We will post the webinar recording on YouTube and link to it in your webinar handout, which again is in the chat. If you're looking for the webinar chat, look in the upper right corner to move between webinar tabs. You might need to click on the 3-line window to see all of your tabs. On YouTube, the video will include a linked table of contents in the description so you can jump ahead to any relevant sections of the video. And all attendees will also receive the recording in a follow-up email. And one final note, after you exit the webinar today, a short survey will appear on the screen. We appreciate all feedback that you can share with us through the survey. If you don't have time to answer the survey immediately, it will also be emailed to you in about an hour. So whether you respond immediately or later today, I want to let you know that we hope that you can share ways that the webinars are useful to your work or ways that they could be more useful. Please let us know what topics you would like to see covered in more depth and any other thoughts you may have about our webinars. We read every comment and we use them to shape our future work. And now I'll pass the mic over to Dana.
Thank you, Kelsey. In this webinar, we'll be assuming some general knowledge of JSTOR and take time to explore it as a tool for those of you doing more advanced research. First, I'll share ways in which the personal account works to streamline access and make your research more efficient and effective. Then we'll cover some tips for making the most of various forms of search on JSTOR. After that, we'll look at saving and using the workspace in research and leveraging the JSTOR AI research tool. We'll also go over the benefits of browsing from the item page. Then I'll share a few techniques to help you navigate the various content types on JSTOR. After that, after going over these, I'll demo them in action for you on the platform. Then we'll open things up for questions. Please keep in mind that you can enter questions during the presentation. We do have colleagues standing by and we will be keeping track of them for the Q&A. If you have specific questions about your own institution, we recommend you contact support@jstor.org. JSTOR, a digital library, is part of Ithaca, a not-for-profit organization with a mission to help, sorry, I'm having a little problem with my screen, not-for-profit organization with a mission to help improve access to knowledge and education worldwide. Ithaca also includes SNR, our research partner to institutions of learning, Portico Deep Storage, and now JSTOR Digital Stewardship Services to support the management and cataloging of collections. Our organizational mission is to improve access to knowledge and education for people around the world. Let's look at what is on JSTOR. JSTOR was officially launched in 1995, so this year we are 30. It began as a project with the Mellon Foundation to digitize and archive print journals. That's where the name comes from, JSTOR for journal storage. Now we have a range of content, including both scholarly and primary sources. Our scholarly sources, which are also called academic results in your search, include journals, scholarly monographs, edited volumes, and research reports. We also have primary sources, including documents, serials, images, audio, and video. I'll share some tips on exploring those in this webinar. Access to JSTOR through your personal account is the easiest way to use JSTOR. There are steps you need to take one time to make this personal account work for you. They include accessing JSTOR through your institution and then creating your personal account. After that, you're set to always log in with your personal account to get to the content your institution subscribes to on JSTOR. When you first go to jstor.org, check the top of the page and see if you are connected to your institution's JSTOR access by looking at the top center of the screen. In this top example here, with the green box, you are automatically logged in or authenticated through that institution. In the bottom example, you are not. If that is the case, follow the link to find your institution and log in there. Then the second thing you need to do this very first time is to sign up for a personal account. After that, you're set to always log in with your personal account to get to the content your institution subscribes to on JSTOR. This is your account for life, and it's free. If you leave your institution, you can continue to use JSTOR. Simply use the open and free content on JSTOR, or you can sign up for a JPass until you are again associated with an institution that has a fuller subscription portfolio. Either way, this is your account. Information about JPass, by the way, is in your handout. If you change email addresses, contact support@jstor.org and we can update your email address for you so you never lose track of that personal account. I like to think of your personal account as your personal desk within JSTOR, like a very nice library carrel. With the personal account, you have seamless remote access for 365 days across all your devices. Each time you log in from on campus, that 365-day clock resets. You can pick up where you left off on a research project across devices from anywhere. And I'll show you how we've made that a little bit easier just recently. With the personal account, your search history is visible to you with recommendations for further exploration. If it is enabled at your institution, you will have access to JSTOR's AI research tool and semantic search results as well. And finally, your personal account gives you access to your personal workspace, no matter what institutions you're associated with. The workspace is where you can store content you find on JSTOR for quick access. So if you save something to your workspace at your computer and find yourself needing to reference it in conversation or in another context, you can pull that item up on your phone. If you're conducting a literature review of a topic, you want to be sure not to miss anything significant. So we have a few tips to help you find, analyze, and keep track of the most relevant content to your topic on JSTOR. We have two main paths of searching on JSTOR: a keyword search that you refine using the sidebar, and advanced search. You can refine your results with basic search using the refine results sidebar, or you can review relevant results using semantic results, and I'll demonstrate that in a minute. If you're not familiar with semantic results on JSTOR, know that you can expect that you will get a vastly reduced set of results. Generally, semantic results show the 25 most relevant books, journals, and research reports according to semantic similarities. So instead of only finding items that include the exact words you typed, semantic results find materials that are conceptually similar to your search, even if they use different words. Sometimes, especially after you have refined your query, less becomes more, and we can use this reduced number as a basis for more expansive inquiry. With semantic results and the refined results sidebar, you might wonder if you ever need to use our advanced search form. The items you find in advanced search results should also be returned in other search methods we cover. But in certain circumstances, this advanced search form can be helpful for letting you focus on results within specific parameters. Like if you have honed your search query and want to experiment with various Boolean operators, or if you want to see what is covered in a certain language. I find the most valuable way to use advanced search is that it allows me to limit to book reviews, giving me another angle on the discourse among experts in my field. Now let's turn to the two major tools that come with your personal account, the workspace and the JSTOR AI research tool. The workspace is a place you can quickly store what you find. Before we had workspace, I would often have a bunch of tabs open all at once, downloading some things and not remembering if I already read other things. And as a teacher, I saw the same things among my students, many, many tabs. With the workspace, your searching and retention process on JSTOR is in one place that you can return to again and again. We're not saying don't download an item. We're suggesting you also save it to your workspace. Make notes about it. Keep track of why it might be an important source. Saving content as you find it is the fastest way to gather and then assess what you have. So we use the workspace to save promising content as we search, sometimes in bulk, and at other times after fully investigating it. Because we can delete items from the workspace easily, saving more than you might ultimately use can be helpful in keeping track of a thread that you can thin out later. If you ever have, you even have the option to create subfolders of particularly crucial works you need to keep together. You have the opportunity to also keep notes on these items as you explore them, and then share both the notes and links to the items, or download a list to combine with resources that you find elsewhere. The bottom line is that you never again lose track of a research thread. The AI research tool was launched this summer after 2 years of research and piloting. It is the place to learn more about an item to determine if it is something you will need to read or if it does not discuss your content topic. In our intro webinar, Kelsey discussed the JSTOR AI research tool in some detail. Your handout has links to that webinar and supporting documentation, including our guardrails and philosophy around creating this tool to function within JSTOR alone. In this webinar, we're going to use it as part of our strategy to comb through content in preparation for a deeper read. The tool helps you quickly assess the item and learn more from that item. The tool is citable, so you can return to your investigation easily. And the AI research tool can make suggestions for refining your search query to suggest particular items. Throughout this, suggest particular items. Throughout this demo, I will be toggling the AI research tool on and off to make strategic use of it. Browsing and searching across content types. The metadata and other elements found on JSTOR journal items, I was trying to get through this without taking a drink, but I wasn't able to. The metadata and other elements found on JSTOR journal item pages are another avenue of research where you can follow an academic conversation through citations or the bibliography. Related items bring forward titles you may have overlooked. The full issue or run of the journal is also linked so that you can better understand the context for the content you're reading. And the access to the full journal and publisher gives you easy access to submission guidelines and expectations for your own papers, or transparency about how this journal is peer reviewed. The metadata and other elements found in the book item pages is another avenue of research. Since the academic monographs on JSTOR are scholarly and often include multiple authors of contributed chapters, you can leverage the entire book to better grasp the content of a chapter that came up in your search results. And the citations, table of contents, indices, and bibliography are all there for you to explore. Often in your research, a primary source can illuminate an idea and provide further evidence. Our next webinar in this series will examine images and other primary sources on JSTOR, but I wanted to point out a few things to consider now. Use fewer search terms, especially with images, because metadata for non-text items is less abundant, and images are also easy to comb through on JSTOR. And speaking on metadata, that can often help give your items a greater context. So be sure to explore the metadata around primary sources. Each primary source item on JSTOR is part of a collection that is linked in the metadata and visible beneath the thumbnail in your search results. Those collections can often be a great set of source material for you. And finally, when in doubt, save it to your workspace. I actually have a full folder in our workspace called Items from Collections I'm Interested in. That gives me an easy way to get back to that collection when I need to. Okay, now we're going to go into a demo. So I'm going to turn my camera off so that you can see just my screen and put us on JSTOR. And I'm sorry, one of my dogs is harassing me while I'm trying to talk to you. And I've got to get back to my notes, so bear with me just a minute while I grab my speaker's notes. All right, now we're cooking with gas. All right, we're going to start searching now, but a couple of things I want to do is first show you how you can register for a personal account. So right now my access is provided by an institution called JSTOR, and I can go right up here to register for a personal account, or if I already have one, I can log in. If I click this register button, it gives me the choice to continue with Google or Microsoft. If at my institution I have Microsoft single sign-on or Google single sign-on, or I could enter an email address. If I already have an account, I can just click down here and log in. Now, once I've logged in, I happen to have access to JSTOR through 6 different accounts because this is our education team login, and we use it to demonstrate different things. And so we have all these demonstration accounts. I point this out, not to brag, but to tell you that this is great for you. If, for example, you are teaching at one institution and maybe a graduate student at another institution, you can have access through more than one institution. And once you've logged in with your personal account at each of those institutions, it will show up as one of your access points. So that's wonderful for you because you can share content that you found on JSTOR with both sets of students through your personal workspace. Now, I'm logged in, and I'm going to point out something brand new this week, which is we now have recommendations based on your recent search activity. And I've actually got 4 pages of recommendations of things that have come up that relate to what I have been working on. Another thing that is new just in the last couple of months is you actually have your search history show up just when you put your cursor in your search bar. And this is when you have a personal account, these things show up. So I'm going to go back down to Jazz and Cold War and pick up where I left off on this research about jazz during the Cold War. Now I've got 14,000 results, and I'm going to consider here in the sidebar ways to narrow those results down. One thing I can do is I can narrow by content type here, my academic content and my primary source content. And this is kind of nice. It includes videos and images. I can also narrow by date range if I'd like. And I could narrow by subject or language. With subject, as you can see, they're in alphabetical order. So I'm going to choose history, and it's going to give me the choice of different aspects of history. So architectural history, art history, regular history, or history of science and technology. So I'm going to click on the regular history and see how that narrows my scope. And I'm noticing that it has narrowed pretty dramatically my scope to just history journals. Now, if I choose that I don't want to do that at this point, all I have to do is click this remove filters or the specific filter that I've narrowed it to. So you can play around with this sidebar a lot as you are doing your search and not lose track of where you are. I'm going to take a minute here and add another keyword. I'm going to add civil rights. And this is in the Refine Results sidebar, search within results. So civil rights. And yes, that is what I meant. Excuse me. I love the way it's checking my work. And I'm going to grab this. So I'll tell you in a minute why I'm grabbing that phrase, that search query. At this point, I've got a nice 6,000 results, and I can begin to comb through. So as you probably know, you're going to get the title of the journal, the author, the title of the article, the author, and then the title of the journal. And this looks promising, so I'm going to click on it and notice that my option to cite or save pop right up here. This one, I don't know this journal, but I do know this one. I'm going to click on that. And scrolling down further, diplomatic history bandwagon, that looks sort of promising. So I'm just grabbing this, and jazz is democracy. I'm grabbing these four, and I have the option right now to cite. I can export to any of these tools or just add to a text file, and to save. And I actually both cite and save because I like to sort of keep a running citation in my EasyBib. So I've clicked on save, and remember that I grabbed my search query. So I'm going to paste that in here. I'm going to create a folder. I'm going to paste my search query in there. And so my folder name is my search query. And I tend to do that because when I'm doing these kind of broad searches, just sort of gathering a lot of information, it's really helpful for me to remember what my search query was, where I found those things. So I could go immediately to that folder if I'd like, but I'm not going to do that right now. Instead, I'm going to do a little bit of further investigation. So I remember this American Intelligence Journal. I'm going to click on this item. And the reason I'm clicking on it is I want to, this is the research tool, which I don't actually need right now. So I'm going to toggle that off. And I think what I'd like to do is understand the context of this journal. So I have a couple choices. I can click on about this issue, or I could go up here, and this takes me directly to the journal page in JSTOR. And I can see the run of the entire journal down here. Remember, in JSTOR, everything goes from Volume 1, Issue 1. And I can see the description of what the journal is about. Publisher, National Military Intelligence Foundation, and I've never come across this one. I'm going to go back and I'm going to look at the front matter now of the journal. So I go to About This Issue and then to Table of Contents and click on the front matter because I want to understand a little bit more about this publication and how they review submissions. So I've got here the board of directors and here more information about the publication. And I can build an understanding of where this journal is coming from as a journal and then make my decision. And I think I am going to save it. It might not be my main source, but I'm going to go ahead and add it to my folder and go back to, if I click back, sorry, I lost track of where I was. And I can go back to my item here and save that. So I've saved this item. Now I'm going back to my results. So here I am back on my results, and I want to look at semantic results. This second thing that comes up in semantic results, politics of jazz historiography, looks super interesting to me. And I want to point out some other things about your metadata. So I'm kind of wondering here, this is cited by something else, items on JSTOR cited. Here are the references. Quite often the references are easier to read in the sidebar than they are in the actual article. This is a 37-page article. And if I went all the way to the notes, I might miss some of the content I'm reading. I also have the ability to search here for, let's see if it's really going to discuss civil rights. Oh, excuse me. So I'm going to see if civil rights is actually, and it is discussed here 8 times. Now, I see that I've got all these search matches, but remember, I've got like 5 words in my search query. So I want to make sure that this particular term is discussed, and it is. And then the other thing that you can do is notice related items. And I could easily save something from here without leaving this item. So I'm saving this related item, and you can see if it is clear, I haven't saved it yet. If it is dark, I have saved it. Taking you back to results, let's look at a book chapter. So this book chapter is called The Paradox of Jazz Diplomacy, and it is chapter 7 in this book, African Americans in U.S. Foreign Policy. So again, I could look at about this book, and I could review the table of contents here with the item open. Another thing that is kind of wonderful is that in about this book, you can look at table of contents this way and actually see a synopsis of each chapter. So if, for example, I'm interested in one of these, I can just save it again from where I am and not lose my chapter 7 item. Related text and search matches. Now, the other thing to point out is that with the table of contents, you also have the back matter and things like an index. And here I see contributors. So my contributor here is Lisa Davenport, and I want to know more about Dr. Davenport's work. So I'm going to look at the contributors page. Going to scroll through, and here I see Dr. Davenport. And I see that Dr. Davenport is the author of Jazz Diplomacy, Promoting America in the Cold War era. Well, that's kind of right exactly up my alley. So I'm going to highlight this, and then notice that I can just jump right into a search on JSTOR. And here I have that book chapter that I just had before, as well as some reviews of Dr. Davenport's work. Now, sometimes it can get confusing, but when it says untitled here, that's actually the review, because in a lot of cases, book reviews don't have specific titles. I know that this is a book, so I'm going to narrow to book chapters. Let me explain something. On JSTOR, the books are organized by chapter, and you can go into the full book from the chapter, as I've just showed you. So what I want you to understand is I'm going to book chapters because I want to find this full book by Lisa Davenport. So I'm looking for the book. Oh, and here is the conclusion to the book. So now I can click on the book. I hope that makes sense to you. And this is Lisa Davenport's book. And each of these chapters, again, with a great synopsis, and I could save each chapter as I'm looking at it if I'd like. Jasmine's Freedom. I'm going to click on this chapter 3, and I'm going to use my research tool to ask what this is about. And it's going to give me some key points. And I could ask it to show me related content. One thing I want to ask is, who is discussed here? Do you know spell it right? Whenever you have to type in front of people, you don't spell things right. Who is discussed here? And it's going to tell me, okay, Davenport is discussing Louis Armstrong, Marian Anderson, Paul Robeson. This is all super interesting to me. And as you notice, the page numbers where that discussion happens show up here. And I can jump to that page number and read more if I'd like. The other thing that I love that I can do is down here, I can cite the research tool. Now, of course, citation protocols are not completely established for AI research tools, but we do have a citation format here. I encourage you to check with your discipline and determine what the citation format that's appropriate is for AI tools. And then the other thing I can do is I can cite the response. And I want to keep track of this response. So I'm going to copy it. Then I'm going to save this chapter in my handy dandy folder. And now I've saved it in my folder. I'm going to show you what the workspace looks like. Here's my workspace. And here's the folder I just created. Before I go into that folder, let me just give you a tour. I could, for example, search the entire workspace for everything I've got related to jazz. It's one of the topics I do a lot of research on, so I'll probably find a lot. I can then also look at this in what we're looking at here, which is gallery view, where you see little thumbnails of what's in each folder. Or I could look at it in list view. Same functionality in both. And then as I scroll down, oh, by the way, as I'm scrolling, you might notice that there's a little chat box here. We have colleagues that actually monitor this chat. And so if you have a question while you're in Workspace or while you're working on JSTOR and you see this chat box, just go ahead and ask it. It's fine. Our colleagues love to hear from you, and they're very, very responsive. Now, these are individual items not in folders, whereas above that, these are all folders. So let me go into a folder and show you what you can do in a folder. First, I can go up here and I can rename my folder. I can add a description. And if I'd like, And that description will show there. The description can be much more than just a couple of words. I've put in pages of descriptions before. And then this is that chapter 3 that I just had. If I go down here, I can add a note. If you remember just a couple minutes ago, I copied the response in the research tool because I want to be able to get back to that. So I'm saving it here. And now it's showing up as a note here beneath this item. But let's say I wanted to move this chapter 3 to the second space. I can do that, and I can move this chapter over, move them around this way. I just dragged them with my mouse. Other things that I can do is I can present. So if I take my chapter 3, whoops, I opened it instead of presented it. I do that all the time, taking you back. So if I click on this little corner in my chapter 3, sorry, go down here, click present, and then I choose more items. I could also grab this item and I could page through each one. Now, the reason that is valuable is, say I had some tables or images that I needed to look at side by side. It's a handy way to look at two things at once when you're in this early phase of research, and I can exit out of that. The other thing that I can do is I can duplicate this folder and maybe delete a bunch of stuff, but save some for my students. I can share a link with any of the institutions I'm associated with, and I just click copy link. I can share it with multiple institutions I'm associated with, and then I can share that with a colleague. I can put it in my learning management system. The other thing, which is really handy when you're doing research, is I can export to PDF. And when I export to PDF, and here you can see my PDF, any description that I wrote shows up just beneath the title. And then in addition, my work that I just did, Jasmine's Freedom, I can get back to the URL where that discussion happens, where I asked who was involved. I can get back to that super easily. So before we open it up to questions, I want to take a minute and talk to you about ways that you can use primary sources. I know we're going to do a whole webinar on primary sources, but I want to show you how cool it is that you can get to primary sources from your search. Now, these are past searches of mine, and I'm going to do Dizzy Gillespie down here. If you look in the sidebar, one of the choices I get is images. So if I wanted to find images of Dizzy Gillespie, I could do it this way. And in this case, if you can see, the collection appears beneath the thumbnail of the image. For things like Magnum photos, one of the things that's really wonderful is quite often Magnum Photos has very deep metadata that you can just hover over. And here I can see that this is an image of Miles Davis and Dizzy Gillespie and where they're performing. And it can be really handy to just check that out. And here's Magnum Photos again. This Dizzy Gillespie for President is really interesting. I've actually saved it before, but I'm going to save it into this folder because you can save things in more than one folder. And then also, this is the Open Smithsonian Museum. So I'm going to click on this. And I'm going to re-execute my search and see if there's any other Dizzy Gillespie stuff in here. And one of the things I found, sorry, I'm kind of a nerd for Dizzy Gillespie. One of the things I found is images of his trumpet, Pudgy. And you know that he bends, you may not know this, but he bends his own bell. So let's see if We have an image of the bell. Yep, here we do. And here's the bent bell for Dizzy Gillespie's trumpet. So definitely going to save that as well to my folder. So I got to that image by just searching for Dizzy Gillespie, and that you don't want to do a huge search string when you're doing things like images. You can just use a really simple one and then comb through it. So before I open it up to questions, I want to point out a couple of things. Anytime you need support, there's a little question mark in the corner of your screen. Click Get Support. And again, our little chat box pops up. And here are some main threads you can follow and support, or you can do your own search up here. One thing, if you happen to be on faculty, is we do have teaching resources, and one of them is a full research on JSTOR lesson plan, if you'd like to use that, as well as our LibGuides and additional resources. And then we do have this, we have put it in the chat before, but this is your handout. And in your handout, we have information about things we mentioned in the webinar, as well as a recording to the intro to research webinar we did, I guess, about 2 or 3 weeks ago. And then we have an FAQ, some questions and answers. So now I'm going to turn us back over, turn on our cameras and see if we might answer some questions. There you are, Kelsey. Let me get my camera back on.
All right. Hi. That was great. Thanks so much, Dana. We are now going to move into a questions and answers period. Please feel free to keep continuing entering questions as you think of them. We'll be watching them. Again, we have our friends on the back end who are going to be helping to answer them in chat as well. As a reminder, if you are leaving the webinar at this point, you'll have a brief 3-question survey that will pop up. We really do read all of those. So anything you can, any detail, any amount of detail that you can give us in those responses, we would love to hear it. If there are general questions that we can't get to today, we will be adding to that Q&A section at the end of the handout that Dana just showed you. And a reminder, you will receive an email next week with a link to the recording from this webinar and also a link to the handout in case you lose it. We will also, if you keep the handout link, we will post the recording to the webinar on the handout. And as a little tip, we will post the recording on the handout before it gets sent out in an email. So if you're like really ready for the recording, check the handout. And as always, please remember, you can always reach out directly to support@jstor.org with any questions you have that we can't or that we don't get to today. All right, so Dana, I have a question to get us started. Can you tell us, can you share from your workspace with someone that is not at your institution?
You cannot share with someone who's not at an institution you're associated with. However, you can download the PDF of what's in your workspace and share that with a colleague. And then they can, especially if you put your search terms in there, they can then re-execute on their own the search, or they can go to those individual items in their own instance of JSTOR. So that PDF download is really handy in that case. Yes.
Cool, that's great. And another workspace question, can an item appear in more than one folder within your workspace?
I love that an item can appear within more than one folder. So in this case, we have that Dizzy Gillespie item appears here, but it also appears in my of interest. This is my things Dana wants to do more research on. Dizzy Gillespie appears in both places. So yeah, you can have things in more than one folder. And of course that works really well for teaching because you might have different sections.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, another question we have, and this is one, you know, the we've been getting, so this is like a useful thing to surface. Can you talk about why you need to be logged into your personal account, or why we have a personal account to use the AI research tool and the workspace?
I'm going to hand that back to you because you're my
Yeah.
expert on the AI research tool, Kelsey. So if you can answer that for us.
Yeah, definitely. So we have usage or access to the research tool, and the workspace is tied to being logged into your personal account. And that helps us manage users and which groups receive access to these features. The research tool in particular is tied to making sure that you are linked to your institution, and that's just how we have been rolling out the tool, which is pretty resource heavy. It also ensures compliance with privacy regulations, especially around age limits. As a reminder, to sign up for a personal account, you have to be age 16 or older. And so these are just some of the guardrails that we've put up on the tool. And you can learn more about the research tool and the guardrails that we've built around the research tool on that research tool webinar that we did back in July, if you want to watch that one. Okay, let's move into, let me grab another question.
Oh,
Do you see a question, Dana, that you want to
yeah,
answer?
I do see one that I'd love to answer. Why are search results
Yeah.
different when using JSTOR primary sources versus JSTOR and then limiting to primary sources? So primary source content in JSTOR is varied and contributed by various collections worldwide. So the metadata is different, and some things may not surface. So what we really like people to do is to do more simple searches and then browse. So for example, I'm looking at Dizzy Gillespie and videos, and I'm browsing through, and I might think, well, where's Dizzy Gillespie in all of this? But as I go into the item, I've got a transcript here, and I could search the transcript for exactly where Dizzy Gillespie is referenced. So the primary source content takes more digging because there's less metadata associated with it just by nature of what it is.
Great. Yeah, I'm glad you grabbed that one. I saw that question too and thought it was a great one to touch on. Here's another question, Dana. Is there a way to limit searches by location? And location means a lot of different things there. So is there a way to limit it by location of study? For example, if someone wanted just articles from the US.
Oh, just articles from the US. I think you would I would limit by language. Do you have a better answer for that, Kelsey?
I think the answer is no. I think we don't have an option to limit, and which is, it's good for us to, I love getting these questions of like features that are interesting to people that we can pass along to the developers. But yeah.
Yeah, I failed to mention advanced search. You can limit to reviews, and you can also limit by subject area and by language here under advanced search.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think one of our support colleagues also pointed out that you could potentially do some things with the search terms or search by abstract or keywords in the abstract, things like that. Here's a question. Does JSTOR plan to expand open access collections?
Always. JSTOR finds Ithaca, our not-for-profit parent organization, is always looking for opportunities to provide more open content. I do want to point out collections here. Many of the collections are open, and if you click open, you can search just within open collections. If you click Art Store, you can search just Art Store collections. And by the way, with collections, you can choose just by contributor as well.
Yeah. Another question we have is to review semantics results. And I can take this one, Dana. So to a refresher on what Dana went over in this, we did talk a little bit more. We talked additionally about semantic search in the Intro to JSTOR webinar from a couple of weeks ago, so you can watch that. But as a reminder, semantic search is using some advanced technologies to find content that might not be an exact keyword match. So of course, the standard JSTOR algorithm relies on a keyword matching. Semantic results allows us to expand on what your keywords are and add things that are related but might be missed because of a traditional keyword search. So an example that we like to use is something like ecological resistance in urban planning. When using the semantic results, you might also get results for something like city adaptability or sustainable city design, which is, those are not exact keyword matches, but are conceptually similar. And we think of semantic results as, another way to surface content. It is a useful way to see some other articles, especially when you might have, a lot of results coming back. Click over to semantic results, see what is surfaced. It is not meant to replace the standard keyword search at this time, but just another tool.
Good answer. Thank you.
Yeah. Let's see, do you see any, Dana, that you are interested in answering? Okay,
Is there a
we're
way
covering
to
a lot
limit?
so far.
Oh, okay, yeah.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I had just clicked on the one, is there a way to limit by location?
Yeah.
Are there any new questions coming in?
I've got a couple questions still that I'm thinking about.
Okay.
Dana, can you tell me if I'm looking for dissertations, what category would that be in on JSTOR?
Dissertation is part of these are part of the contributed content. So if I were looking for a dissertation, I would look under both books and documents. So sometimes some institutions have placed them under books and some institutions have placed them under documents. And so it's a matter of combing through those for what might be useful in your area. So not dissertations on jazz diplomacy might not be very common, but those are the two places I would suggest looking. You could look under documents, I suppose, as well. But again, this is that challenge we have with so many different institutions contributing and deciding how they want to catalog that particular type of item.
Yeah. Here's another question related to our content and our search. When we're searching, when you put in a search term, is that search pulling from just the metadata of the item, or is it pulling from the full text of the item?
It's
like when it's surfacing on the search results page.
For the academic content, it's pulling from the full text. And for the primary source content, it is pulling from the metadata.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a really interesting.
So the academic content is pulling from both the full text and the metadata, whereas the primary source content is just pulling from the metadata.
Yeah, which is part of the behavior that happens when searching for something like images. That's how we're pulling image information and giving you search results for the images. Dana, can you save search strings? Save your searches that you've done on JSTOR?
Instead of being able to save search strings, what I do is I make a folder of content from a search string, like I demonstrated, because you can't really save a search string, but you can name a folder or save the search string in the folder description, for example. So if I did a very elaborate set of search strings, I would then edit my description and add them here in the description. It's always great to do that, to be able to step back into a project. It's so often we find ourselves backtracking when we've been interrupted. So to go in the habit of saving your search string in your workspace folder is, I think, the best habit to have in terms of not getting backtracked, not having to backtrack.
Yeah. We're getting some questions about search terms and getting started with searching. I'm curious if JSTOR has any resources to help with learning about searching, getting started with searching and starting with researching.
Well, there was that lesson plan that I pointed out. And then also we have a great support page on searching and citations. And here's an introduction to searching on the support page, as well as search help resources and overview. So I would encourage you to go directly to the support site and look there at those articles on searching. They're wonderful in how they sort of lay out different use cases.
Yeah.
Oh, and then there's this one, using JSTOR to start your research, which is a great one.
Yeah. Do you have to be associated with an institution to have access to JSTOR?
No.
How much, like, how do you access, how do you access content? What are your options for accessing content when you are no longer associated with an institution?
You can continue to use JSTOR with your regular personal account, but that you would just simply be limited to the open content on JSTOR. And you can then also sign up for a JPass if you want to have access to the content provided through JPass. And JPass, we also, I think, have a link to signing up for JPass. Here it is, individual subscriptions on JSTOR. What is JPass? So that, again, on the support page, you can learn more about JPass. But that is, whenever we meet people that just graduated and miss JSTOR, we love to tell them about JPass.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, so the JPass has a different group of content from the open content. There's overlap, but there's different. Some articles, there might be an article that's available on JPass, but isn't available under our like free and open content system. And then of course, there are some articles that are not available on either of those that are just available through an institutional subscription.
Yes.
All right. And I think we are wrapping up. We've been able to answer a lot of great questions. I want to do another reminder that we will send out an email early next week. I believe it's scheduled for Monday, which will have a recording of this webinar. We will add questions into our handout. We will drop the link to the handout one more time into the chat. That is something that you can bookmark. You will get the recording of the webinar probably tomorrow afternoon as soon as we're done processing it. Don't forget that you can reach out to support@jstor.org with any of your additional specific questions. Those are our like friends and colleagues, and they are standing by to answer your questions. There are some of them online right now. If you have follow-up questions from this webinar, even if you're like, I lost the handout already, our support colleagues are happy to send it to you. I think that's it for us, Dana.
Thank you, Kelsey. That was a wonderful experience having you host this. I appreciate it.
And really fun. Great job. All right, thanks, everyone.
Bye.